Well, hello everyone. So today's speed build is really the old age story about the importance of remembering the fundamentals. And as I was going through with today's speed build, I kind of forgot one of the leading fundamentals when it comes to any kind of architecture design and all of that. Not to say that I've begun my studies already as an architecture student or anything of the sort, but one of the more obvious things there that I almost feel like is common knowledge. And I'll explain that in just a moment. Now, for those of you just discovering my channel and just discovering my little corner of the internet, my name is Michael, and I want to welcome you to Sovereign Gaming in Life Sims, the YouTube channel where I build worlds, lots, and share my thoughts on video games in the life simulation gaming space. Now, as I have been continuing to jump between different neighborhoods, doing different speed builds, we are indeed back in the Bluewater Village neighborhood of my custom SimCity world here, and it is the suburb from SimCity where there's going to be a ton of single family homes and all of that. Now, we've done a couple of builds before, and that's exactly where this particular lot sits behind, and it sits behind those previous Bluewater Village lots, being those a couple of townhouse complexes that I had built in a couple of episodes prior. Now today I'm finally something that I'm really glad to be doing today is that I am finally starting the real bread and butter of the Bluewater Village neighborhood and its identity, and in this case it comes in the form of the structure of a single family home. And for today's build, I am actually starting things off by building out a bungalow single family home that is reminiscent of North American suburbs and all of that, and that's really where I was taking a lot of my inspiration from, was from those suburban areas. Now, there wasn't a particular area that I was taking inspiration from for Bluewater Village and for this particular build, but there were several different designs that I was more so focused on. I really wanted to capture that that suburban single family home structure that would be present in today's suburbs and all of that. So I really wanted to capture something that was kind of modern, but also has that classic suburban feel to it at the same time. In the beginning of today's episode, you are really going to be seeing the floor plan developing, kind of evolve right before your very eyes there. Now, that's really nothing new with most of my builds. However, in today's episode, I really kind of had things mixed up in my own head. And what I mean by that is that I needed to switch things over from one side to another. As you'll see me build for pretty much the first half of this video, unfortunately, is I'll build out these public rooms that lie just on the south side of the bungalow structure itself, flanking the garage and all of that. And the truth is that it's not the feature part of the home, and what I ended up having to do is I had to switch it over to the north side, because what I had originally done with the floor plan was I had originally had all of the public rooms, like the kitchen, the dining room, the living room, or sorry, the great room I should say, all on the south side of the bungalow home. And when in reality, when looking at the exterior of the house, the feature parts of the home were really the other way around. Like, there were more windows on the north side of the home, and so, you know, I kind of realized that mistake and that misstep halfway through, and so I ended up actually switching it over just by trading the public rooms for the bedrooms that I was placing on the bungalow structure itself. So there's a bit of a room shuffle that happens throughout this episode here. So if you're seeing something on screen and you're like, why is Michael putting the great room on this side when it makes more sense to be on the other side? Well, don't worry, it does actually get fixed by the end of the episode. Sometimes I really have to go through a journey when actually building out a structure, and it's been a while since I've actually done a single family home that is made to be a little more aimed for a middle class family that can afford it in a suburb. So that was something that has, like, I haven't built those kind of builds in a very, very long time. So I was also just kind of getting my bearings together as I was going through this particular build itself. However, that is just to kind of say that there is a big mistake that I continue to make pretty much throughout the first half of this video, or the first half of the speed build, but I ended up like cutting a lot of footage and all of that, which just kind of switches us over to the correct room layout. So if the room layout is just not making any sense in the beginning of the episode for today, it gets rectified by the end of it, and that I promise, because it turns out into something that I absolutely stand by and I could absolutely see being developed in the real world. Now, when it comes to these kind of suburban house builds, one of the structural standards that I'm having for all of the single family homes is that it has to be on a foundation, and it also has to have an attached garage. Now, attached garages in The Sims 3 can be very finicky to actually place because you have to use the constrained floor elevation false cheats. I'm very comfortable with that. That's a comfort zone for me, so I'm not necessarily I'm not necessarily intimidated by that, but it's just like finding the right wallpaper for the garage that's kind of annoying because it does get warped, whether you intend for it to get warped or not. I even had those kind of struggles with the Crumple Bottom Chateau and with Goth Manor as well, but I never really spoke on that kind of a challenge when designing out those builds. So these single family homes will absolutely have that foundation. They'll have that attached garage. And another standard that I am bringing into these builds is that I absolutely want them to have a basement. And that is something that I will speak a little more on a little later on in today's episode, because I got a lot of things to say really about basements and how I want them to have a structural standard, a construction standard for the Bluewater Village neighborhood. And there's a lot more I want to share on that. But yeah, something that I had to do in the beginning was I sort of had to map out the build. You guys would have seen me do this extensively in the Goth Manor builds, because that was a very complicated build, whereas this one, it was essentially like making sure that the stairs from the basement will meet up in the places that I'm expecting them to meet up at. And so that is something that I had to always keep in mind, and that's really a big trick when building with a foundation that's got an attached garage to it. You have to use those constrained floor elevation sheets, and when it comes to having a basement underneath that foundation, you need to like delete parts of the foundation in order for the stairs to come up to the ground level. Placing a basement underneath a foundation, it's more tedious than it is actually you know what, I'm not being fair here. Not only is it tedious, but it's also challenging, is what I really need to say, because if you aren't placing your stairs right away and you cover your entire lot with foundation, then your foundation might continue to like give you it might continue to not allow you to actually place stairs underneath it. This would have been something you guys would have seen me struggle with when doing the bridge view single family home build that I was doing way back when, where I actually ended up having to delete the lot entirely because it wasn't allowing me to place stairs from a foundation to the ground floor and then from the ground floor to the basement, which is essentially what you have to do when you place the foundation. And the only real work around that I found in The Sims 3 is that you have to place your basement stairs first and then build the foundation around the landing on the stairs from the basement to the ground level. That seems to be the only way it really works out well for me. And I'm very lucky when actually building out this bungalow structure, because this bungalow home, like I mentioned earlier, like I had to switch the floor plan. I had to completely mirror it because it just wasn't making sense to have all the public areas in places that don't have the most windows. And when I switched it over, one really big concern that I had is that I was gonna have to end up deleting the lot entirely because of the basement stairs and all that. But luckily I really made it work, and it ended up just being kind of something that was just offset from a hallway that leads to the other bedrooms there. So it all works out in the end, and I'm very lucky that I didn't have to delete the lot entirely or completely rework the floor plan as it was. But yeah, it is when using when building homes on a foundation that have a basement in it. I know a lot of players tend to avoid it. And again, the real trick to it is getting those basement stairs to lead up to the ground floor and then just building the foundation around that. And there's also another trick to that as well. There's a trick to a trick, really. And, you know, I'm going to also suggest that if you build out a basement, just build out what you need just for the stairs and the landing, and make sure that the walls look right, because if you have stairs that are right up against the wall, it'll delete the descending wall on one of the sides of the stairs. And if you expand out the basement to design the surrounding areas, then you know, you can't add in the wall. You can't add in that descending wall that the game doesn't let you do. It's very hard for me to actually explain without putting this into like some sort of a tutorial mode, so I do apologize if I'm just creating more confusion. But when you place stairs, there's a descending wall that just follows along with the stairs and with the descent or the ascent of the stairs. And if you place it right up against a basement wall, it gets deleted. And if you expand on the basement shape afterwards, then you know, you won't ever be able to build that descending or ascending wall from the stair base to the landing of the stairs. Again, I really don't think I'm explaining this right here, but my suggestion here is just to create enough space so that your stairs have like one square beside each side. Yeah, just like one square of space just surrounding the stairs so that you aren't losing any of the walls there. So that is my suggestion there, and I hope that will at least make some sort of sense to you guys. And like the Goth Manor build, I also placed some temporary objects in rooms as well, just to remind myself where I had left off, because I knew I was gonna have to walk away from this project and walk back to it. I don't ever typically do an entire speed build within one sitting. If I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, I usually do them in multiple sittings, just based on the way that my schedule works these days and all that. So yeah, this is one where I knew that I was gonna have to walk away from it. And I know that I'm gonna forget if I don't figure out a way to like mark a room as to what I had intended it to be. So yeah, you guys are, again, you're going to see a lot of temporary objects placed in a floor plan that I am totally going to mirror by the end of the episode, so don't get too attached to what you see there. There are some good ideas, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't work for this lot. Yeah, I also wanted to mention as well that something that I have noticed about myself and my own building style and all that is that I do make my basements a little too large. I really struggled with the creation of a basement in the Bridgeview single family home. That one was too large. And the thing is that basements, and this is me like not knowing anything about architecture, but this is me making an assumption, so if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I'm assuming here that when it comes to basements and all that, that they generally take the shape of the home because the foundation is built directly on top of the basement. And so that's what I have been doing pretty much up until this point, is I've been trying to make basements take the shape of the home in its entirety. And I think, I'm not too sure actually if I kept this in the footage, so if it's in there, then perfect. If not, then you know, I learned that lesson off camera. But when I was mapping out the basement originally, after I had built out the rest of the home, I just noticed that it was just going to be way too large of a space for me to really decorate without it seeming just overwhelming and like too much house. It just didn't feel right for me in terms of the scale, and so that's something that I am keeping in mind going forward. Now, because I'm not exactly creating any sort of a construction standard for basements going forward, I can definitely take creative liberties where I see fit, but I definitely don't like the idea of having the basement fit the entire floor plate of the ground level structure there in my game. And the reason being is that it's just too much of a home to actually build out. And I say this as the person who's built some really ridiculous mansions, but for the scale and for the scale of the single family homes within Bluewater Village, I just feel like having the basement match the floor plate of the ground floor exactly is just not really what I'm looking for. And you guys are going to see why by the end of the episode here, because the basement that I create for this single family bungalow is actually, it doesn't take up the shape of the entire ground floor floor plate there, but it is actually much smaller, and I really love the way that it turned out. It felt a lot more realistic to me, so I'm just gonna kind of stick with that and just use basements as a creative I'm gonna use basements creatively, I suppose. I don't know if I'm just being too lazy with it or not. That's the only thing. But anyways, I like the way that the basement turned out. Maybe that's something I'll have to actually put in some sort of a future Bluewater Village editing episode of some kind. But you know, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think I'm just going to continue to build out basements to scale with the build, and it'll be on a build by build basis. But anyways, so yeah, that's what the story is with the basements here, is that I just feel like I've been doing them too large, and you know, it's just a little overwhelming, and I can only place so many bedrooms, you guys, before it just gets like so boring to do basements. I mean, basements are a great way to just like put in a media room, which I did do, and to just kind of build out some extra bedrooms in. But outside of that, I'm kind of at a loss for some ideas for basements. Now, I could totally go into the content of the game and just, you know, maybe put in like some sort of a workshop, like a robotics workshop or something. Like, that's certainly something that I'm going to keep an open mind to with all of these single family homes going forward. But, you know, for this basement, I just kept it smaller, just enough to fit in an extra bedroom and a media room, and I just kind of called it a day from there. And a bathroom, of course. So yeah, basements are going to be certainly something that I will be doing on a build by build basis. And also, there's like not a lot of great objects for basements that kind of give them that storage room vibe and all of that. And I do actually add in a storage room to this basement as well, something that I am very happy with, just to give it that true basement feel. But yeah, that's kind of been my thoughts on the basements for this build. Let me talk about something else though. Let's take it above ground and outside, and let's talk about the exteriors of the single family homes. So with Bluewater Village, it's always been in my head that I really want all of the buildings and all of the homes to really lean into the Bluewater namesake here, just to really embrace that name with the exteriors. I did that with the townhouse complexes, giving them that gradient from dark blue to white, just kind of resembling an ocean wave breaking before it hits the coast and all of that. And you can see that clearly actually in today's episode, because we're building on the lot directly behind one of them. But yeah, I really want to embrace the name of Bluewater Village, and because blue is also my favorite color as well, I kind of want to make all of the single family homes either different shades of blue, whites, or aquas. In this case, I used a seafoam green, which I thought was particularly pretty, and something that would suit the area, just to kind of give it some variation here and there. So yeah, that's really what I am anticipating that I will be doing for for the Bluewater Village single family homes, is just kind of giving them a sense of sameness, while at the same time making it appear like there's some sort of a construction bylaw for building structures in Bluewater Village, in that they have to meet a certain color criteria in order for them to get approved. So yeah, that was something that I had kept in mind here, and something I'm very excited to kind of see evolve as we kind of move on here. This could be a mistake going forward, but we'll just have to wait and see how some of the other single family homes get built out before kind of calling it as a mistake or something of that sort. So we'll just have to see how a few of these homes work out. I feel like when I build out the next 3 single family homes within Bluewater Village, I'll realize then whether this is a direction I should lean into, or if it's a direction I need to divert away from. So yeah, very excited to see how that's all going to turn out, and how that is and how that direction kind of evolves. When it comes to building out suburban bungalow homes, it's actually a particular kind of build that feels a little outside of my wheelhouse for me. And really like what I struggle with when it comes to bungalow home builds is just the outside and trying to make it actually look good, especially within a suburban setting. Like I want Bluewater Village to really emulate within my custom SimCity world here. And one thing that I find that I really struggle with is just window placements within the bungalows, because honestly, when it comes to the shape of homes and all of that, the windows really do make up for like the majority of the beauty for a home, for me at least. And I feel like there's just so much more I could do with just like an extra level of space, and you guys will see that in some of the two-story single family homes that I build within Bluewater Village. But today is not that day. Today we are doing a bungalow, and I actually did choose this particular lot to be a bungalow because I wanted it to I really wanted to take the entire block into account here, since there's 3 other lots that are pretty much beside this one in a row that just flank the townhouse complexes. And so I really wanted the pattern to be like a bungalow for the first lot, and then two stories in the center, and then ending off the with another bungalow build at the end of it. It'll make more sense as we actually get to do the builds, but yeah, that was something that I had intended on building, because I figured that the way that shadows and the sun would hit each of the homes, you don't want like a 2-story just casting a bungalow home in a complete shadow. And I always known that I wanted Bluewater Village to have its single family homes as a mix of bungalows and 2-story homes. So that was always something there that I was going to do anyways, but I do want to make the placements of bungalow builds a lot more intentional. Speaking of which, I gave this one a large roof, and that is going to be another construction standard that I have for the Bluewater Village single family homes, is because I really like the look of these oversized roofs and the gables, and just kind of making it feel a lot larger than it actually is. Unfortunately, what this does is it encourages me to use like little fake windows, or I guess attic windows, and I don't ever plan to build attics. I just find that the staircase up to them would just be too much of a hassle to actually figure out. So in my head, that they're just fake windows, and I have a lot of issues with that myself, because I feel like if you're putting a window in a wall, it should lead somewhere. But anyways, I really wanted to use large roofs for the for not only the bungalow, but for all of the other single family home builds that I do, because it also helps to show like how restrictive the city council in Bluewater Village is, and how specific they want the homes within Bluewater Village to look. And it also kind of, you know, makes the city council of Bluewater Village, you know, have to eat a little bit of crow when it comes to actually densifying important parts of their town center, such as the townhouse complexes behind it. Like those townhouse complexes are easily going to be shorter than the 2-story homes that I actually build, even though they have the same amount of floors put as like a 2-story home. Although the 2-story single family home is just going to actually be taller than the townhouse complex. So it just kind of goes to show the irony in a city council really restricting any kind of density within Bluewater Village. Meanwhile, the single family homes that they have is actually taller than something that is a little more denser. So I kind of wanted to show that little political irony within that, as I feel like that happens in real life, even though there are no real life examples kind of coming to mind here. But yeah, when it comes to the pools are not going to be for every single family home build. I did want a pool here because I felt like it kind of helped to break up the look and feel of Bluewater Village, especially when looking directly at the townhouse complex and how it transitions into a single family neighborhood. As soon as I put in some pools there, suddenly it just kind of conveys to the viewer that they have a larger backyard, which is totally the case. And so the pool is just like another visual cue for the player as they go into the map mode and whatnot, that the neighborhood transitions into a single family home neighborhood. And I also haven't built a backyard pool for a long time. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the way that the backyard turned out for this particular build, but I'll complain about that a little later on, I suppose. So yeah, right now you are likely seeing me start to shuffle over some rooms. This is where I did cut a lot of the footage from beforehand because I had actually built out a couple of rooms. I built out a great room, a dining room, and an entire kitchen, along with color palettes and all that jazz. And all the bells and whistles that come with it. And so my whole thing was actually just, you know, mirroring it completely, because the focus of the home is clearly on the north side, where there's just generally a lot more space to work with, and that is the space you need to dedicate to, you know, hosting where you'd have the most foot traffic. And when you have guests over to a home like this, they're obviously going to be within like your living room and within your great room and all of that. So yeah, that was a big part of what you're going to be seeing right before your very eyes, is just me shuffle things over, because it doesn't make sense right now to have the bedrooms where they were. And this was something that I kind of realized at night when I was probably going to sleep, just like thinking about this project, because there's always like something off about it to me. And then it like dawned on me suddenly that, oh, I've got the house switched around. It should be the other way around. And in this case, it absolutely was the right move to make, because the great room was pretty small. I didn't exactly like the chimney placement where it was. I still kind of don't, but it's much better than where it was before. And yeah, like the great room got bigger, which is something that I kind of wanted, because it just didn't feel like a great room. It just felt like an extra room that was blocking you from the hallways and all that. But yeah, that was I felt like this was the point where the change happened, and I was really happy with the change, so I just kind of started leaning into it. The kitchen actually ended up with a very unique layout in terms of the walls and all that, because it shares a wall with the master bedroom, and like all master bedrooms that I have done, I really try to make them as opulent as possible. So, you know, it comes with a walk-in closet and its own ensuite bathroom. But with the kitchen here, it was flanking the great room and actually the dining room in sort of a weird way there. And yeah, this is totally not an open concept house, and I am due to build one of those sometime in the near future, so you guys can look out for that, I suppose. But yeah, the kitchen ended up taking a very unique layout, and I was kind of struggling as to how I wanted to actually approach it, but I ended up just extending the island to kind of have it wrap around a little bit, and I love that solution. I limited the seating in that island just so that the breakfast bar is just closer to the west side of the west wall there, that has the door that leads out into the backyard and all that. And yeah, the kitchen ended up having a really unique layout, which is something that I totally welcomed, because all of my kitchens were starting to look the same here, you know, with the oversized islands, etc., etc. So, you know, extending the island and having to do a little wraparound moment was actually something that was very welcome. Speaking of which, I should probably talk about the interior design, because I had already made some choices well before I had started having to shuffle the room layouts and all that. And the choice that I really made was, you know, I was really going for a Bohemian home interior, and you know, The Sims 3 really doesn't offer a whole lot when it comes to Bohemian stuff. Sure, there are a couple of store sets there, and I do have some of those, but they really aren't great for the interiors, like for a living room or something of the sort. And maybe it's just me not being creative enough to like really capture that kind of a look. But yeah, I was really going for something a little more bohemian. As you'll see in the kitchen, I went with, you know, the Mexican hacienda set that was offered in the store. So this is really more like a boho Mexican inspired home, and I just tried to continue some of the themes throughout. Like you'll see in the master bedroom, for example, like I'll use the iguanas from the hacienda set, because I really wanted to try and continue some of those themes into those rooms. So yeah, boho Mexican chic is really the interior design choice that I am marketing to you guys right here in this episode. And that is kind of what I'm going with for the rest of it. I wanted to totally break away from the neutral palettes that I know you guys are probably sick of, and you know, it's not an addiction I'm kicking anytime soon, but I will take a break from it once in a while, and this is kind of how I try to take that break, because I try to use a completely different style. In this case, I tried to go with Bohemian, and then the Mexican kind of flew in a little bit with the Mexican hacienda kitchen set, and so then I was just like, okay, it's now Mexican Bohemian. So that's just kind of how it all went for the interior design choices that I was making. The Bohemian references that I was using to do all of the interior design and decorating with obviously featured lots of plants and greenery, and I kind of feel like it is a staple of what Bohemian decor is supposed to be like. So that was something that I kind of kept in mind when decorating out the rest of the home. Is it really had this nice blend of Bohemian and Mexican influences to it, but there was a lot of I tried my best to feature plants where I could, just to really show that these Sims that live here have a very strong green thumb. There was one reference that I did take that was technically Bohemian, and it had a nice like dark aqua, and that was a reference that I used for the living room. I thought it looked really nice. Do I think that I necessarily pulled it off in this particular build? Well, not really, to be honest with you. Decorating Bohemian, although I've done it in the past with builds like the Old Town Cafe, for Old Town Corner, whatever that lot was really called. I decorated a cafe and I thought I was doing Bohemian then. Like decorating with Bohemian and designing with that in mind as my reference, it's something that is a little out of my wheelhouse in a sense, but I also tend to blame the limitations of the Sims 3 game itself, just in terms of like offering decor and all that. And yes, I do know that there are some Sims 3 sets out there that say that they are Bohemian, but I found that those are more suited to outdoor settings and all of that. But anyways, the way that I understand Bohemian interior design is that there is a focus on plants, coziness, and of course textures. Textures doesn't really translate well in The Sims 3. Like if you want to try to make a carpet seem like shaggy or something, it is kind of difficult to actually make it appear that way just with the creative style tools. Now, maybe it's just me asking a little too much from the creative style tools there, but there is definitely limitations from the game when it comes to trying to convey textures and such. So when it comes to Bohemian design, that's kind of one of the key elements of it that I'm just not able to convey in The Sims 3, from my opinion anyways. Of course, if you guys have different references or something you want to share, feel free to comment below. I don't mind learning something new once in a while. But yeah, I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm going back to neutrals for the next single family home build. As much as I love this build and the way that it turned out, like I'm giving myself a solid 7 or an 8 out of 10 in terms of the interior design. I don't mind it. I definitely don't think it's a home run for this kind of a build for my skill set and all that. And I think that a lot of it was just me trying to stay true to that Bohemian interior design, which I essentially interpret as a bunch of neutrals with a focus on plants, coziness, and textures, like I mentioned before. So there was a corner in the living room, for example, where I just really didn't know what to do with it. And so because I really wasn't feeling like I was conveying the Bohemian look and feel to it, I just added a bunch of plants and shelf objects. But maybe it should be a study, like now that I'm looking at it now. Feel free to comment below if you think it should be a study. I might actually go back and change it later on. I do end up adding a partition at the back of one of the couches, and I do end up actually deleting it just because it was a little too distracting. And that's another thing that The Sims 3 really doesn't do too well, is it doesn't give us a whole lot of partition objects that I think could really make or break a room. I love a good partition once in a while, but the partition selection that we get in this game is very limited from what I've got. And maybe there's some in the Sims 3 store that I just haven't downloaded yet, so maybe I should take a quick look on there. But the partition objects that we get is just kind of limiting. Like I just need like a nice really basic one. There's a couple I could probably get for myself, but yeah, I find that the partitions that I have, at least in my game, is very limiting. Let's talk a little bit about the master bedroom now. So In the master bedroom, again, I was really trying to convey that it's a Bohemian bedroom, and the references that I was using, again, involved a lot of plants. So what I did is I added in this plant object like over the bed. It came with the wedding set from the Sims 3 store, and it kind of feels a little overkill to me. Like, I don't think that I am conveying it as the Bohemian feel as I should. Maybe I should replace that with a shelf and a bunch of plants on the shelf. Maybe that would make it feel more Bohemian and natural and all of that. I don't know. But yeah, the object that I ended up placing over the bed is something that I actually end up keeping. And yeah, that is certainly something that I may look to change in the future if it's something that, you know, looks better as the changed product. I was careful to add in a desk here just to kind of like sneak one in the corner. I think, yeah, at the time that I was building this house, I just came off of building the investment condo. And with that one, it really bugged the living daylights out of me that I couldn't find a place, enough space to place a computer in it and a desk, so I made sure to include that here. Although I do think that it would be worth it to add in a computer in that corner of the living room and just kind of, you know, deck it out with plants and such. So, you know, there might be another opportunity to place another computer in the room. I pretty much give all of the bedrooms a desk and a computer, so maybe the study would be overkill, but I actually don't think it would be. The study would be just like a corner in the living room there. I wouldn't give it its own room or anything. I would just kind of add it into a space. And then, you know, if I was mocking up a floor plan, I would just kind of, you know, write it in like study in the corner of it without actually indicating any walls. I think that architecture firms kind of do that whenever they want to show a purpose of a specific room for open floor plans. So the living room is a little open floor in terms of it having just a little space for the study. I'm overthinking it, honestly, and probably over explaining it. But anyways, back to the master bedroom here. So the master bedroom, in my opinion, like, it's okay. The challenge with bungalows is that you have to place the bedrooms on the ground floor. And for me, that is challenging because I want to stretch out and expand my space with, you know, with larger living rooms, and there's a kitchen, there's a dining room. Like, it's the ground level for me is not a place to really be sleeping on, because I like the separation of private quarters and public quarters, just me personally. And so I personally couldn't see myself like buying a bungalow home without I couldn't personally see myself buying a bungalow home, because in my head I just really think that bedrooms should be on a separate floor. But, you know, again, that's just me, that's just a personal preference. But when it comes to the actual interior design of a bungalow home and the floor plan and all of that, it is a lot more challenging because you have a lot less room to work with, since you need to fit those bedrooms on that ground level. And yeah, bedrooms take up quite a bit of space, depending on how large you want to make them. In this case, like for the master bedroom and for the guest bedrooms and all that, they do feel okay, maybe the master bedroom just feels a little too small for me, but the other rooms felt appropriately sized. Again, I just felt like I couldn't really stretch out, and one of the construction standards in my head is that a bedroom needs to have a window to technically be classified as a bedroom. That's kind of a standard that I've been sort of working with when it comes to Sim City and the builds that I've done there. Of course, I've done bedrooms and basements before, and in this episode, you'll clearly see a bedroom and a basement, but, you know, on paper, it might not actually classify as a bedroom when Sims go to sell it. It is a little, you know, it is a little like playing with your imagination when playing this game sort of thing. But that was something that I kind of had in the back of my mind. And for a bungalow home, I want to be able to at least offer 3 bedrooms for Sim families on paper, as opposed to offering them like 2 bedrooms or something. I just feel like single family homes need to have more bedrooms than a standard apartment. And the same thing kind of goes for townhouses as well. But yeah, the bedrooms on the ground level were certainly challenging. It's a challenging space for me to really work with when it comes to building out bungalow single family homes. I know I keep repeating myself there, but yeah. And so I had to like compromise with a lot of space saving measures here. So the first thing that I did was the closet in the master bedroom is a lot smaller than what I would have liked to have made it. It works, but it does feel a little claustrophobic. Like, it's still technically considered a walk-in closet, which is what I wanted to offer players, but it does feel kind of claustrophobic. Half of it is just due to the fact that I wanted to place some shelves in there and whatnot. Like I do with all of my homes, I did play test it, so Sims can actually walk in the closet and change with the wardrobe. And yes, I am overusing that wardrobe. It is a place of comfort for me, but it just works so well in these kind of closets that I have just, you know, I'm not exactly apologizing for using that particular wardrobe, only because I've recolored it so many times. But yeah, that was kind of what I wanted to share about the master bedroom, and just like the challenges of having to actually put your private quarters and your public quarters on the same level without, like, within a modern context. And so I find that kind of challenging just within building out a bungalow. When it comes to two-story homes, like, I imagine that the master bedrooms on there are going to feel a lot more luxurious, and that's just going to plainly be because I'll have a whole new floor to actually play with and to actually expand on the space within that. So I'm very excited for the two-story homes. Although the bungalows I still like, they give me enough of a challenge. I just know that my wheelhouse, like, I'm with my wheelhouse of building skills, I suppose, like, I'm just better with two-story homes or even mansions as opposed to bungalows, which is kind of funny. And I'm pretty great with apartments too, don't get me wrong. It's just like that middle ground between like an apartment and a two-story home, which in this case would be a bungalow, is where I find more challenge for myself in terms of designing a floor plan and all of that. I think I spoke about it a little earlier on this episode, but I also just wanted to reiterate that the basement build for this house is actually one of my favorite parts of the home. And the reason being for that is that I really want to replicate it, and ideally I would like to replicate it in the bridge view single family home build that I did way back when. And the reason why is because with the bridge view build, I was really trying to aim to have the basement kind of resemble like a true lived-in basement. So I really wanted it to feel like this dusty extra space where you have like some inherited pieces like the couch or the TV stand in this case, and it just kind of sits there and it doesn't match, and you have all of the storage stuff like maybe from university or from college or whatever, which is why a lot of the college and university stuff really came in handy here when decorating out the basement, because it really helped to emulate that. And yeah, it was the basement build was really one of my favorites. Like, I ended up adding in an extra bedroom there, which could be perfect for your oldest teen, or maybe even a young adult who's kind of into like handiness skills or like the invention skill or whatnot. So, you know, there's a little more edge with this particular basement, and it feels a lot more rough around the edges, and that's really what I want in future basement builds, and especially in the basement for the Bridgeview home that I keep referring to. But yeah, I really like the basement for this. I feel like it's very realistic in terms of the space that people would actually have. The only thing that's kind of unrealistic about it is the wraparound hallway. I could probably get it I could probably shorten up the basement and eliminate that complete wraparound hallway altogether. And that might be something that I will consider doing whenever I get around to editing Bluewater Village, which won't be for a very long time. So that's more so a note for myself to kind of look up for. I know I've mentioned it several times in previous videos, but whenever I watch these videos, there's always like a new idea that I get when I go to do the audio recording. And so sometimes what happens is the videos that I end up publishing is more like some reminders for myself, which is kind of funny. But yeah, the wraparound hallway is really the only thing that feels a little excessive with it. And it goes again to just kind of speak to what I was saying earlier this episode, that I tend to make the basements too large, and for this one I felt like the size was just right for the amount of space that I really wanted to offer players to use. So very happy with the way that the basement turned out, and adding in like the beer pong tables and some of the stereos and all that, it just really helped to make it feel like a true basement space that's just not decorated, that just kind of came together almost by accident in a way. That, you know, there are things that are out of your element, things that are out of your control that you just kind of store, and, you know, in that storage space it all just kind of works out anyways. That's really the type of feeling that I was going for. I decided to just totally lean into those themes, and I added in some additional university decorative objects here and there, and it was nice to just kind of detract away from the rest of the home, which is decorated in that bohemian chic design there. For the other kids' bedrooms, I tried to keep them fairly unique. I mean, I tried to make one of the rooms seem more like it's fit for an artist, and then for the other bedroom, I remember using or experimenting a little bit with some yellows here and there. So, you know, the other bedrooms were perfectly fine as they were. I feel like they did the job. Again, I mentioned it just a few minutes ago, but this house is honestly like a solid 7 or even an 8 out of 10 in terms of my own work, if I really wanted to rate it. And a reason why I get knocked off some points is really because I feel like, you know, I struggled with decorating with a bohemian theme, but also the backyard is also a place where I just kind of had some themes sort of clash. You see, I love the way that the pool was designed. I stand by the shape of the pool. I feel like it actually fits the space, and I actually stand by the tiling around the pool being white. However, when it comes to decorating the rest of the backyard, again, I really wanted to try and lean into those bohemian themes, and what I was getting, like, in terms of searching for my references, is that there is, again, a lot of textures, a lot of greenery. So I tried to create this sort of sitting place within the backyard, and I honestly feel like it is likely going to be something that I will either delete completely or just simplify to the point. Like, I used you know, one of those half walls, or is it one of those fences? It's one of those. And I decided to like add in some additional greenery, and I try to make it look and feel as cozy as possible. Maybe I just needed to add in like some sort of maybe I just needed to make it into some sort of a pergola. Like, that might be a better idea, just to like give Sims like a little mini pergola situation within that space. But it just to like help it make it feel cozier. But the thing is that at the time that I was building it, I was seeing a lot of references that were using like a ton of cushions here and there, and there's like a cushion object that came with the Generations expansion pack, and I tried using that, but the recoloring on it is kind of weird, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like, you'll recolor one of the options and it recolors several pillows as opposed to like just a select few pillows, and they only like recover parts of the pillows. So it was a weird one to kind of work with in that terms of like a recoloring scheme there. But yeah, the backyard could use a little rework. Maybe a pergola would help save it. You know, not even a walled in pergola, but just one that's held up by columns. That could be what saves this, and just like making sure to keep it very simple. Maybe just even placing a fire pit underneath might just be what I do. But yeah, it was a struggle, and I fully admit that the backyard itself probably knocks this one down to a 7 out of 10 if I'm rating my own builds here. The rest of it seemed okay. Like, I say that and I'm looking at the barbecue area and the outdoor dining set, and I'm just like, yeah, it does what it needs to do. I again have like another place of comfort where I build in for backyard spaces, and it's honestly using the outdoor living stuff from the outdoor living stuff pack. That's a great stuff pack. That's one that I stand by any day of the week. I feel like there's so many pieces in there that are so flexible, and I've used a lot of the hanging lights in other places from there, like the hanging light with the green candle inside. I hate that you can't recolor the candle, but it's a great object and it never stopped me from using it. So yeah, that's like one stuff pack that I absolutely stand by and couldn't play my game without, in my opinion. But the thing is that I just gotta like get out of that comfort zone, and that's really where the struggle is going to be for the next time I do build out an outdoor space. As you can tell in the build, I tried to make this bungalow home as pet friendly, or at least as dog friendly as I possibly could. I know I mentioned it earlier in the episode, but I imagined that a full family would be living here, whether that family takes the form of a nuclear family or otherwise. And I really wanted to give the space to like invite the story of, you know, owning a pet and enjoying that kind of gameplay within a space where you actually have quite a bit of space to kind of allow your four-legged friends to stretch out their legs and all of that. I even added in a terrarium, as I'm sure you guys would have seen in the living room, so you can even have like a lizard or a turtle or what other small animals you can actually place in the terrariums, which is pretty great for an expansion pack to offer that kind of gameplay within the Sims franchise here. I don't mean to like be a little too off topic, but that's kind of the nature of these videos anyways, is that I kind of get off on a tangent. But I do think that the Sims 3 Pets was better than the Sims 2 Pets in a lot of ways. And, you know, the abundance of small animals and being able to take care of them and all that is one of those gameplay mechanics that I think kind of pulls it ahead from the Sims 2 Pets, in my opinion. But, you know, I've got to do like a review episode. I don't know when I'm going to do that for the Sims 3, but that'll have to be sometime down the road as things got super busy for me this summer. But yeah, this home is totally friendly to those players that enjoy family gameplay, like a full-fledged family with pets and everything. So I think that players will find this space very accommodating for that kind of gameplay style. I know I didn't speak on it earlier in the episode, but I did want to mention that laundry and being able to do your own laundry within your own home is going to be a standard for Bluewater Village. So the laundry rooms are obviously going to be taken into consideration when building out these kind of lots further on. I do plan to actually build a community lot that is classified as a laundromat. That was something that came to us in the Sims 3 Ambitions. And so because it's a community lot, I do want to offer that kind of gameplay to players as well. But I'll have to like explain that much later on in this series, as I'm not even that close to building out that laundromat. But it's kind of on the horizon. I'll explain when we actually get to it. But yeah, laundry is something that I've been taking into consideration this whole time, like who has access to laundry within their own home, who has to go out to the laundromat, etc., etc. And within Bluewater Village, I want every home to have their own laundry situation sorted. So that's something I've taken into consideration. Something new that I've done this lot build is, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, is the storage room. I've mentioned it a little earlier on, and storage rooms are really spaces that I really haven't taken a lot into consideration. And the reason being for that is that they are essentially just like a waste of space. It is set dressing, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. And the reason why I decided to actually branch out and give this space its own storage room is because I do kind of want to put that idea of that judgment of mine, I suppose, to the test. Like, is it really a waste of space? And so I put in the storage room. I filled it up with a bunch of seasonal objects, also with some crates as well, which is kind of unfortunate that we just don't have regular boxes. So I just put in the crates and kind of called it a day. And yeah, the storage room is there. It has the Christmas tree in it. It also has some other seasonal items from fall and all that. And I felt like it served its purpose. It is exactly that. It is just a storage room. Do I think that I'll be building storage rooms in the future? Perhaps. I'm going to keep an open mind to it. I just don't think I ever found an opportunity to build a true storage room in any of my community lots, although I'm sure I probably could have. I just never did. And I just felt like it was appropriate for this basement space as well. So I did it. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit on what the next episode is going to be here. So we are going back to Midtown, but we're going back to Midtown, I guess the second last time if you count the editing episode. So yeah, that means we are finishing up Midtown with its last build. That is something that I am super excited about. I just feel like I keep talking about Midtown this, Midtown that, and then, you know, I've been skipping over to Bluewater Village. So it'll be finally nice to actually finish a neighborhood and just to call it complete. I think that I know for a fact that I'm going to be doing an editing episode for whenever that turns out to be, but I'll likely plug in a quick Bluewater Village Suburban build in between between the next Midtown episode and the editing episode. I'm not actually explaining that right. There will be another Suburban Bluewater Village build between the next episode and the editing episode. So it's not like I'm completely abandoning Bluewater Village after I finished up a neighborhood. I actually really like this kind of pacing in terms of just kind of giving you guys more of a variety to like watch in terms of like the different types of speed builds that I'm doing. So I'm definitely going to continue doing that as we continue on with this series. And so yeah, finishing up Midtown is next. I'll definitely put a poll on my community channel as well, just to see if you guys want me to change things up or change it back to the way that I was doing it before. So yeah, that will certainly be something I will reach out to the community for as well. But yeah, next episode, we finally finish Midtown, and the lot that we are going to be building is going to be another restaurant lot, and it's actually a rabbit hole building. So I'll tell you right now, it saved me a lot of time, although I did kind of overdo it in a way, and I'll explain that in the next episode when we finish up Midtown. But for now, I am just going to leave it here for today. The tours will certainly be playing, and since we are in Bluewater Village, there are some really great skyline shots as as we've been switching between the inner city neighborhoods, and with Bluewater Village, the inner city just continues to build and build and build, and the skyline just seems to keep getting better and better, at least in my opinion. There's lots of plans for the next neighborhood that we'll be building in the inner city, but I will be sharing more on that in the next couple of episodes, I suppose. I'm not even too sure here. I still have to do quite a bit, and when it comes to editing Midtown and all of that, I have to rewatch all of the other episodes that I did for those speed builds, just to kind of see what reminders I have left myself for the editing and all of that. So I have got hours and hours to watch of my own content, and I can really only take the sound of my own voice for so long. Anyways, I'm going to leave it here for now. If the tours aren't already playing, then feel free to stick around to check those out. And yeah, I just want to take another minute here to say thank you so much for watching, and that I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.